please raise your hands if you can hear me okay. And what you do is on that little side screen, there's a little option icon to raise your hand. We'll just give a few minutes. Okay. Thank you for joining us. If you're experiencing an echo and are using voice over IP audio through your computer, you may want to switch and call in on a phone. Let's see here. Do you see any folks called in yet? How many people are on the? Okay, so we've got. Great. Okay, so my name is Michelle Brown. I'll be moderating today's webinar, and there we go. And so I'm the project manager for Build It Green Professional Guilds, and I'd like to thank you for joining us this morning. For today's webinar, we have Tanaya Asan. She's the GreenPoint rated program manager at Build It Green. And Tanaya brings 30 years of experience in the residential construction industry to her position as program manager of the GreenPoint rated program. Her 12 years experience with building and remodeling homes equips her with a thorough understanding of all phases of construction. Another 15 years experience as a construction defect analyst provides her with unique insights into problematic construction techniques. She's a California licensed general contractor, a certified green building professional, a certified GreenPoint rater, and a HERS rater. She has a master's degree in education and is certified as a green building professional from Sonoma State University. Please welcome Tanaya. Say hello.
Hello, everybody. Oh, and I am a GreenPoint rater, of course.
Yes. And so I'd like to take a minute to tell you a little bit about Build It Green. Build It Green is a professional nonprofit membership organization whose mission is to promote healthy, energy, and resource-efficient buildings in California. Our main way we accomplish our mission is through a professional training and certification program. We are excited to be offering webinars as part of our continuing education offerings, as well as part of our member benefits, as members receive free admission to our webinars as well as free access to our webinar library. If you're not a member of Build It Green, we hope you will consider becoming a part of Build It Green's member community and helping to support our work in California. Please visit our website at that link to learn more. Okay, so today you'll all be muted during the presentation since there's so many of you. During the question and answer, you can type your questions into the chat box and we'll read them for tonight to answer. As you'll see, we're going to be breaking today's webinar into two parts since there's a lot of information to cover, so there will be a 5-minute Q&A midway, and as I said, you can type your questions into the chat box. And then we'll do that at the end of the second part. Please note today's webinar is worth 1.5 CEUs, and to receive credit, you must stay on for the whole webinar. Okay, and as I mentioned, type those questions into the chat, and we'll read those to Tanaya. And please know that a survey is going to go out immediately following the webinar. We'd appreciate if you can fill it out, as your feedback is very helpful for us to improve our webinar offerings. So before I turn this over to Tanaya, we're going to just launch a question right here. It's a short poll. And the question is, how familiar are you with GreenPoint Rated? And this will help Tanaya with today's webinar so that she can better address your needs. So we'll just give a quick minute. We've got their results are coming in. That's 71% voting and climbing, 80% voting. Okay, so 90% have voted. All right, the results are changing as we go, but we've got 34% very familiar. They're either a GreenPoint rater or an advisor. 58% are somewhat familiar, and 9% are not at all. So that.
Thanks for doing that. All that helps. That helps me.
Okay. So we're going to turn this over to Tanaya. All right, Tanaya.
We should have a little thing that says, take it over.
Yes.
It says, change presenter. I don't get a prompt. There's no prompt here.
Excuse me, folks. We're just changing this over here.
Don't you love technology?
Yeah. Oh, poll must be closed. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, folks. Well, she's already made. Oh, you are the presenter.
I'm in presenting. I don't have the. I don't have the presentation up. Okay. I don't know where it is. No, I don't want that. I want the presentation. I didn't know that I had to do that. So where are you keeping the presentation? Why don't I just come over there? Why don't we just switch back and I'll come over there? Sure. Sorry, folks. Technology is great until it doesn't work, right? Yeah. Okay, so I just showed my screen here?
Yep, there you are. I'm just going to just show your screen.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
All right, good morning, people. It is still morning, isn't it?
Yep, it is.
It's always a little awkward for me doing this, doing presentations where I don't have you all in front of me and we can't really talk or wink or do anything with each other. So I feel like a radio announcer. It's not my favorite, but but there's a lot of information, and obviously we can't all make it to the same room at the same time these days. So let's make the best of it. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about today about GreenPoint Rated and about CALGreen. GreenPoint Rated is a market-based system, and it's managed by Build It Green. And CALGreen is a regulatory system that was developed by the state of California. The two actually work together very well, and we see that they're both very necessary in the marketplace. We're going to talk about that a little bit as well. So just getting started, for those folks that don't know anything about GreenPoint Rated, as I said, it is a market-based system. It is a list of best practices, actually, and encompassing energy conservation, water conservation, indoor air quality, resource conservation, and community benefits. If you want a little more information, you can contact us, the GreenPoint Rated team, at extension 604. You can also visit our website, GreenPoint Rated. Build It Green, and go to the GreenPoint Rated section. There's a checklist there. You can download it. You can play with it and calculate your own house or a house that you're building. So that's about all I'm going to say about the system, because I want to move on about CALGreen. But I will say that there are different checklists. There are two checklists for new homes. We devised one for single family and one for multifamily. And we have an existing home checklist and program as well. Again, one for single family and one for multifamily. The existing home program is the only one in the nation for existing homes, and we're pretty proud of it. It seems to be working quite well. Know that all of these programs are developed in unison with stakeholders across the state, state agencies, experts, contractors, architects, etc. So it's not Build It Green just saying we know what's best. We bring in experts and agencies from all over the state and national standards to help us develop the program. Just a few updates for Build It Green and GreenPoint Rated. As I mentioned, we do have the only GreenPoint Rated, the only existing home rating system in the U.S. That is comprehensive. Obviously, there are scores for energy efficiency. DOE has a score, California has a score, but in terms of a comprehensive green program, GreenPoint Rated is really it for existing homes. Folks that on the existing home side, hopefully everybody is aware of a statewide effort to upgrade existing homes. That program is called Energy Upgrade California. It is a collaboration of local agencies and our utilities. You will, the end of February, you're going to start seeing a big media splash. You'll see advertisements on TV. You'll see billboards and flyers and radio announcements as this program gets rolled out. There are rebates from your local utilities, and then there will be a website. I think it's not quite live yet, but you could Google Energy Upgrade California. You could see what they have up right now. It's getting populated. You'll be able to insert your own zip code and find out what's available locally. In terms of GreenPoint rated, there are going to be rebates in Alameda County and in LA County for a homeowner that is interested in gaining a GreenPoint rated label. And all of that information will be up on the website. And the anticipation is that there's a lot of homeowners that are remodeling that are interested in green. They may not even understand that that includes energy efficiency upgrades. So by gaining interest in a green label, we're also going to upgrade homes to be more energy efficient. And that, of course, is the biggest strategy for decreasing greenhouse gas emissions in the state of California. We also have an effort to green the MLS. These funds, some of this work is funded by the federal stimulus money. So I think in the next year or so you're going to see green homes on the MLS. I think that's really what I want to talk about right now. Let me actually mention SB 758 for those folks, again, interested in existing homes. That was a state bill that allowed the CEC, or gave authority to the California Energy Commission, to develop an existing home program in the state of California. What that's going to look like, we don't know. I suspect that it will be based on a HERS rating or a HERS score, but it can include regulatory requirements. It could include audits at time of sale. We have no idea what they're going to come up with, but that, I believe the work on that should be starting probably mid-year, and we may see something as early as the end of the year, at least a draft. So look for that too, and obviously you can Google any of this and get a little more information. CALGreen code, looking at this CALGreen code for existing homes, the Building Standards Commission and Housing Community Development is starting to look at code for existing homes. I suspect that that's probably a couple years out. On climate action in the state of California, there are really three initiatives or efforts that are coming together on the new home side. One is Assembly Bill 32 is the overall strategy for California to reduce greenhouse gases. CEQA is a requirement, local requirement for to assess environmental impact of buildings. CEQA has now started to include greenhouse gas emissions. That I'm not quite sure when that started. It was pretty recently. We're having developers and builders call Build It Green now to, with the interest of using our climate calculator to assess the greenhouse gas emissions that will be produced by their developments. They're required to produce a CEQA report, and so they're looking for ways to quantify the greenhouse gas emissions that they'll be producing through those homes. Assembly Bill 375 is also reducing greenhouse gases through transportation, and your local and regional efforts to set standards for transportation linked to housing. And I don't know a whole lot more about that, but if those sorts of things interest you, definitely Google those bills. The GreenPoint rated climate calculator will be operative in a couple months. What that does is it will quantify the water saved, energy saved, debris recovery, and greenhouse gas emissions, vehicle miles traveled, and greenhouse gas emissions associated with all of those items. It right now is a reporting from the construction of the project, as well as could be a forecast. Our GreenPoint raters are going to be starting to use that and being able to report that to their builders quite soon, actually. So enough updates. Let's get to GreenPoint. Let's get to CALGreen. So most of you know most of you know that green building in California has been really the lead in the nation. And StopWaste.org, which is a local Alameda County joint authority association, really was the start of green building. They saw that the development of, or the debris recovery in buildings led to reduction of greenhouse gases. They are a waste authority association or organization, and so they became interested in the broader effect of green building, and they started green building guidelines that were broader than just debris recovery. So Stop Waste has been the leading organization. They started in 2001. They brought Build It Green in 2003, and here we are now in CALGreen. GreenPoint rated was formulated in 2006. So the trend towards towards green homes has developed pretty quickly in the state of California, and we think that the fact that we have a CALGreen code is due to the fact that all of these initiations and all of this work has been happening over the last 9 or 10 years. The intent for CALGreen is to provide a baseline code, and that's true for all building codes. It's a baseline code. It's not your premier performance building, but it's the minimum requirement, and that's the initial intent, is to raise the bar on the performance of homes through requirements of indoor air, water conservation, and resource conservation over and above the energy code that we already have. It will be a phased approach, so over time they suspect that CALGreen will be increased, just like our other codes become more and more rigorous. Our green code will be the same. Where's my little thing there? It is. CALGreen is made up of a number of different sectors. So there are some mandatory requirements. We're going to spend a fair amount of time on those today. And those went into effect January 1, 2011. They're in effect for anybody that is building a new home currently. It does not affect any existing home. It doesn't affect additions. It is for new homes. Now, that said, a local jurisdiction could make a requirement then that a remodel or any additions have to comply with applicable mandatory codes. But from the state perspective, it only addresses new homes. In addition to those list of mandatory requirements, there are some voluntary measures. There are a list of green practices. Those have various degrees of definition at this point. It is a code in progress. So you can look to those if you'd like for some understanding about other green practices, but know that you're not going to get as much definition about those as you might want. Finally, the Building Standards Commission put these voluntary measures into a structure called Tier 1 and Tier 2. We call it kind of a pseudo rating system. It is we'll go into it a little bit more, but it's really kind of a package of measures that would say, well, you're a little bit better than mandatory, and Tier 2 would be a little bit better than even that. It was adopted, the structure was put in place so that if local jurisdictions do want to adopt something higher than mandatory, the mandatory requirements, they could look to these tiers as kind of a plug and play. Understanding CALGreen, I'm going to talk about the residential section today. Probably the easiest way for you to understand the mandatory requirements in CALGreen is to go to the Housing and Community Development website and download the CALGreen Guidebook. You can just Google CALGreen Guide and you will find this. It's very comprehensive, and it does discuss each one of the measures and how to comply with the measures. It's actually quite thorough and quite good. I would highly recommend it. If you want to dig deeper and actually look at the code, that is available also on the Housing and Community Development website. It's also available on Building Standards Commission website. If you're going to do this, I'm going to give you a few tips to look at. One is this code is a little bit different for residential, commercial, state, and hospital. So if you're interested in the residential section and the codes that apply to residential, look at the top of that code and it will say HCD, Housing and Community Development. That organization or that agency is the one that developed the code for residential. Building Standards Commission, BSC, is for commercial. They are the one that developed the code for commercial. Now, all of these agencies collaborated, but the actual codes are a little bit different. Again, through that code, if you're digging deeper, Chapter 4 is the HCD or Residential Mandatory Measures. Chapter 7 is all about inspections and talks about the city, what the cities need to do for inspections. Special inspectors are allowed by the jurisdictions, so that's in there. If you are a GreenPoint rater, you can go to your local jurisdiction and ask them whether or not they're accepting special inspectors for the inspection of CALGreen. Chapter 8 has some worksheets that can help you to verify and to comply with CALGreen. And finally, the appendix gives you the list of all of the measures in the residential section. And it will tell you which ones are mandatory, which ones are the Tier 1 prerequisites, and then it will have all the list. So that's the easiest. If you're looking to the code, that's another way to find out all of the measures that are within the code. So let's move on. For the mandatory section, there's about 30 code provisions. 13 of those are going to be very familiar to you as a builder. They are things like slope the grade away from your building, things like stormwater retention for small projects as well as large projects. Right now we have a code for larger projects. This extends it to smaller projects. So most of these, a number of these measures are something that you're already going to know and understand. The mandatory section is really fundamental measures. They're very simple measures. There may be a few of them that are new to you as a builder, but most of them are going to be familiar. They're fundamental indoor air quality practices, such as lowering or using products that lower gas emissions. Low VOCs, low formaldehyde. There's minimum water conservation practices for indoor water fixtures. For energy efficiency, the only requirement is really to comply with code, so Title 24. And there is a requirement for HVAC equipment design calculations. So that may be new to folks. And we're going to go into the end. I'm going to go through a whole presentation, and then I'm going to go through each mandatory measure, and we can talk about it really briefly. We won't go into depth, but we'll talk about it briefly. So those mandatory measures, as I said, they're very well defined. The guidebook is good, and I think that you'll find that you can comply with it fairly easily. And especially if you've been involved at all with Build It Green, you're going to know green, and this is pretty simple for you. If we're looking at CALGreen through a GreenPoint rated lens, most of the measures, or number of the measures in CALGreen were actually taken from the GreenPoint rated checklist. So again, it's going to be pretty familiar with you. At this point, GreenPoint rated has taken any measure that is in CALGreen that wasn't originally on our list and put it on the list. Even measures like slope the grade away from the building. Now, we're not giving you points for that because you should be doing that. We don't, and you should be doing it, have done it for a long time. But we put those measures on the checklist so that a builder using GreenPoint rated can look at that checklist and make sure that they're complying with CALGreen. So there's 8 CALGreen measures that don't give you points on GreenPoint rated. If you were to comply with CALGreen, you would earn a minimum of 5 energy points in GreenPoint rated, 6 indoor air quality points in GreenPoint rated, 10 water points, to a total of somewhere between 18 and 28 points. Now, why there's a difference is some measures, so for instance, if you are not installing carpet, you wouldn't be complying with that measure and you wouldn't get points for it. So, so that's why there's a range of 18 to 28. Note again that GreenPoint rated requires the builder to design their house to meet 15% above the energy code. So CALGreen doesn't get you to GreenPoint rated on the energy side. So looking at the tiers, we're going to look at it a little bit more. So we've talked just briefly about the mandatory measures in CALGreen. Now I'm going to talk just briefly and give you an introduction to the tiers. As I said, those are a structure to going beyond mandatory. The structure is that there are prerequisite measures. So of that, a list over and above mandatory, there's some prerequisites that you have to comply with as a builder, and then you have to choose a certain number of electives in each category as well. So the categories being indoor air, water, resource, and energy. Those measures, again, are not, they have minimal definition. They haven't been vetted in the field. Some of them, to me, in my mind, need more vetting to see if they're really feasible as a green practice. And there's really no reporting templates to help you define whether or not you've complied. Nevertheless, some jurisdictions are requiring the tiers, and they will have to come up with some interpretations of those measures, because the interpretations at this point aren't necessarily clear. Many of those tiered measures and the voluntary measures don't align very well with GreenPoint rated, and some of them might look like the same. And we'll go over it later, but they aren't the same. So don't assume that if CALGreen tier tells you to stockpile your soil and put it back, that you've complied with a GreenPoint rated measure that looks the same, because the GreenPoint rated measure is a lot more stringent. So digging a little bit further into the tiers, if under the planning section, if you want to do tier 1, you're going to have 3 additional measures under planning and design, and you're going to have to pick 2 elective measures. For energy efficiency, you're going to have to design at 15% above Title 24, and there would be 4 additional electives, up to you, through that voluntary measures. Water efficiency, 2 required, 1 elective. Materials, 3 required, 2 elective. Environmental quality, 2 required, 1 elective. We'll go through some of those a little more of what those are at the end of this this presentation, and I can send those out to you as well. But know that they are in the code. And here's Tier 2. Probably the most significant is Tier 2 starts at 30% above code. I don't know any cities that are tying to Tier 2 as a requirement. So we're going to take a little break right now and see if anybody has any questions on that section. No, as I said, we're going to go through specific measure definitions. So if you have any of those questions, please hold them, or I will not answer them quite yet.
Yeah, we'll have time at the end after you've gone through those measures. So yes, we have a few questions now, and I'll start asking those. But also, again, if you do have questions, feel free to type them into the chat box. We'll take 5 minutes, and whatever we don't finish, we'll address at the end. So there's been a question many people are typing about, will this presentation be available afterwards? And this presentation with audio will be available for our members for free on our website in the members-only webinar library. And then there is a question I believe Nelda had a little earlier. She wanted you to go back to that the web page showing the website for the standards again. Can you show that web link?
Web link for the standards.
Yeah.
Really, the easiest thing to do is to Google Housing and Community Development, California Housing and Community Development, and you will find CALGreen. It's all over the web page.
Great.
And you can also Google CALGreen, and you'll find it that way. That's probably easier than following my link.
Okay. Now here's a question from Judy. What are your best estimates on the costs for SFD C28 for 2005-2008 Title 24? And then it kind of has a progressive question, and then Title 24 2008 to CALGreen, then from CALGreen plus 15% for Title 24, and then CALGreen to Build It Green, or I mean probably CALGreen to Build It, or to GreenPoint Rated.
Judy, I'm going to direct you to PG&E. PG&E, I mean, I can send you, we've done a report on Title 24 for Alameda County. I could either send that to you. We've got a cost estimate for Climate Zone 3 and Climate Zone 12. And that was done by a company called Mike Gable and Associates. However, PG&E has they have an assessment for every climate zone in California, and that is available to builders free. What is the department to call? I would, if you can't find it, I would look into their advanced home program. If they cannot direct it to you, ask them for the government relations department, a gal named Jill Marver. And then if you can't find them, email me and I will direct you to Jill.
Okay, so we have another question that's come in. I'm not sure if
you know what, let me just add to that. As I recall, I'm trying to remember what those costs were. As I recall, 15% above Title 24 is about a $1,500 jump from 2005. And if you were 35% above, it was something like $3,500 per home. So don't quote me on those, but those are what I'm recalling.
Okay. This is a question from Brant. I'm not sure if, so tonight, if he says this is a question he's submitting for later, so I don't know if this is something you can answer now or if it'll be more appropriate at the end. But he wants to know, are the HVAC equipment design requirements integrated into the Title 24 energy calcs, and thus the calc company signs off on those design requirements?
The requirements for HVAC are your let's answer more. They're your J, D, and S. So they're the sizing of the equipment, the sizing of the ducts, and the distribution. So most HVAC contractors can do that analysis and calculation, and that analysis and calculation should be submitted to the city. Obviously, yeah, you would want to look at the Title 24 report to see what was inputted by the energy consultant. Maybe they're the same. You know, the energy consultant and your HVAC contractor might be the same. But if you have any other questions, let me know. But I think that answers your question.
Okay, a question from Joe. Is the CALGreen policy? I think is that a question? I mean, like this is policy as of January 1st, correct? 2011. And GreenPoint rated more in line with the science? In other words, Title 24, and how do they relate in practice?
So CALGreen, the CALGreen is a requirement. As I said, there's mandatory requirements, about 30 of them, for all new construction. It is a regulatory, it is a building code, like any other seismic code, plumbing code, mechanical code. You are required to comply with CALGreen green measures. The rest of the measures, the voluntary measures, are what HCD has determined are best green practices. As I said, they're not all that well defined right now. GreenPoint rated is much more refined in its development. They do relate in that they're best green practices, but at this point, GreenPoint rated is much more defined, much more sophisticated than what you'll find in the CALGreen voluntary measures.
I may have read that wrong. So, Joe, if we didn't answer your question, feel free to resubmit it. But I think he was asking, is CALGreen and GreenPoint rated more in line with the science of Title 24, and how do they relate in practice? Is that what you heard as the question? Okay, great. So Ron says, I agree that in the Bay Area this is not too radical, but in the Valley and in the mountains, I think this is fairly radical for them.
I appreciate that that feedback, Ron, and I think you're right here in the Bay Area, and also builders that are familiar with Build It Green and their trainings. It's not difficult, and that's really who I'm speaking to. So, but you're very correct that you know, Build It Green has probably you know, reached a quarter of the market. And so we've still got 75% of builders that aren't familiar with green practices at all.
Okay, we have a question from Susan. GreenPoint rated checklist is difficult to find on the website, and why does it already include rating numbers?
So the GreenPoint rated checklist, I mean, if you haven't found it, so I don't know if this is a comment that says, hey, make it more visible. If it is, let us know, and you know, I'll take that feedback and give it to our web team. If it's a question of where is it, then if you go to the Build It Green website, on the left-hand side you'll see GreenPoint rated. On the right-hand side you'll see the GreenPoint rated logo. Either one of those can help you get to a web page that says guidelines and checklist. The checklists are at the bottom of that page. When you should download those. They are calculating. I don't know why they would have numbers in them. I'll look to see. So if they have a number in them, it means that somebody checked the box. So just find the box that's checked. They shouldn't have. So I'll check that.
Okay, moving on. Some Art writes in that Judy, that original question with all those comparisons, that she could also contact Consul Energy Consultants, or CBIA, who have also done additional cost estimates.
Great.
Okay, and then we do have a correction from Brandt, or the question submitted is, are the HVAC equipment design requirements integrated into the Title 24 energy calcs, and thus the calc company signs off on those? Wait, I don't know. So,
I think it's a question about Title 24. So Title 24 includes your thermal envelope and equipment. Those are the basic ones. There's other things that go into it. So the HVAC equipment and size, your water heater equipment and size are all in your Title 24 software to produce the performance of the home. So through the HVAC equipment design requirements, those HVAC, the equipment size that is listed in your Title 24 is got to be the same one in your calculations. If that's not it, Brent, then email me and we can go on from there.
Okay, we just have time for a couple more. We've got Dolores in Oakland. She wanted to know if you're going to be covering what CF1R docs will be required by the city. What is their quote-unquote checklist they require now? They don't know much down there, she said.
I am in Oakland. Interesting. CF1Rs have been required by the cities for eons. They're required to review the CF1R to make sure that you comply with the Energy Code, California Energy Code, which has been around since 1978. So it is true that many jurisdictions don't really, they don't enforce this. I am not going to be covering that because different cities have different requirements. Yeah, I don't quite know what to say, that they don't really know what's going on. I think it is true. There's a lot, you know, it's a lot for building departments to handle all the new codes. There are a lot of new codes coming out, Title 24, CALGreen, other changes, and it takes a lot to really, for them to get their heads wrapped around it. Unfortunately, cities are also have had to lay off staff because of funding.
Okay, we have a question from John. Will Build It Green's climate calculator CEQA compliant when it is released? Does that make sense?
You can't really say that the climate calculator or GreenPoint rated would comply with CEQA. It would really, I think what the question is, if you're building to GreenPoint rated, would you automatically meet the CEQA requirements? It's yet to be seen. That might be true, but I suspect that it would depend on the homes and also what the region is requiring. Each region may require something different in terms of the amount of greenhouse gas emissions.
Okay, and question from Stephen. Are any of the requirements asking for performance testing instead of just calculations?
No, there's no requirement for performance testing like your HERS rater. There's a requirement to meet code, and sometimes, depending on where you are, what region you are, you might be required to use a HERS rater to do those performance testing, but there aren't any requirements for that. Okay.
Okay, I think, all right, oh boy, there's a couple more. We'll take maybe one or two more.
Okay.
So the GreenPoint rated checklist is dynamic. You fill in the numbers and click the no for a drop-down or yes, no to be determined. That's information. That's informational. Okay, what are the documentation requirements for showing compliance with CALGreen?
So again, each city is going to have something different. The question is, what's the requirements for showing compliance with CALGreen? If you look at that guidebook, it will help you a fair amount to comply. There are some 4-hour trainings that around the state that actually go into a little bit more into how to document it. In general, you should use the forms that are in the guidebook. You will need to pull together some documentation. We'll go through that a little bit later when we go through the specific measures. So, but for instance, if you're using low VOC paints, you're going to need to give them documentation of your MSDS sheet.
Okay.
To show them.
Just another clarification. Dolores said, sorry, she should have clarified that they rejected her CF1R asking for the CF1R alt. They didn't have any clear reason, so that's just informational. Okay. And I think we should probably move on. So the questions that were piped in, we'll get to them at the
All right, here we go. Just a few differences between CALGreen and GreenPoint rated. And it's really the difference between a regulatory system and a market-based system. The market-based system, well, we'll talk about it a little bit more. Let's just start here with the key differences. So GreenPoint rated is a consumer label, just like Energy Star or Organics is a consumer label backed by a third-party verification. Your CALGreen is not a consumer label. Actually, it's there is by law the builder cannot advertise themselves or advertise. They can say that they've complied with CALGreen, but they can't use it as a consumer label. In terms of the role in the industry, again, I said CALGreen is a baseline. It is setting a floor as to how we're going to build in California. It doesn't really, it's not an incentive, just like any other code. There's no incentive to do better than code. GreenPoint rated, as any market-based system, is saying, hey, let's do better, and it awards builder for the better that you do. Then you will earn more points, and you can certainly market that. So you're starting to see really the advantages and why these two systems are important as California moves forward. On the measure definition, as I said, the mandatory measures are very well defined. They're not very, some of them are defined, some of the voluntaries are well defined, a number of them are not. GreenPoint rated, if you are looking to go beyond CALGreen, go beyond code, and you want to understand it, but you don't want to go to a training, you can download or you can purchase the GreenPoint rated manual, and it is very explicit as to how to comply with each measure. It's a very good educational tool, as well as a verification tool for the raters. Verification of measures, third-party rater for GreenPoint rated. So a professional who's been trained by Builder Green goes out and verifies. As a builder, it's something that you can tell your consumer that, look, it's not just me, the builder, said I've complied with this. I've had a professional come out and say that I have met the requirements. Verifications for the local governments, I think we've already had some conversations here that kind of indicate that we don't know how well the cities are going to be able to verify for CALGreen. So we'll, just like every other code, they don't have the resources to do all of the verification of all measures for all of code, and so certainly there are some things that slip through and are not necessarily compliant. For quality assurance, we don't have a statewide training for the inspectors. There's no requirement for them to get trained. There are trainings available for the mandatory. It is pretty basic, and there's no QA on them. Whereas Builder Green does do quality assurance on the raters. We go through every checklist and talk with the raters, and we get out in the field and do some quality assurance. Under utility incentives, people should know that if you are participating in your PG&E or your local utility program, they do give you rebates for going 15% above Title 24. If you are doing a green certification, such as GreenPoint rated or LEED, you can get bonus incentives. I think it's a 10% boost for gaining that green certificate. So the utilities understand the benefits of these market-based systems and the third-party verification as well. Finally, as I said, our tracking system and climate calculator is going to be available soon. The raters are getting trained on it next week or in a couple weeks, and then it will be available to builders fairly soon, and you'll have climate information. That obviously is not tracked with CALGreen. So I guess the question is, you know, is CALGreen a high bar? Maybe in some areas of California it is a high bar. Or is it the floor? For some other builders, it's very much the floor. They've been doing this kind of construction for many, many years. But it does set, it's a very good code. It does address fundamental issues. We've had studies, let me just say one thing before we go into this. Let me go back so you don't get distracted here. there's studies that have been done that show that the homes that we build today are very much tighter and have a lot more pollution in them from the off-gassing. And this was one of the reasons why building standards wanted to do a mandatory code. So as I mentioned, and you'll see later, there are a significant number of measures that require the use of products that have less off-gassing, and that's very important. So through the code, we're addressing fundamental indoor air quality issues, we're addressing fundamental water conservation issues, and through our energy code, obviously energy code issues. And so we're really delighted. Builder Green is delighted with this mandatory code, and I think it's really going to help all of us move forward. But let's talk about the roles of the two systems. So the CALGreen sets the floor, establishes a baseline, and as I said, Builder Green is extremely proud of the fact that California has developed this code, and I think it should lead the nation. But that's not going to get California where we need to go. It's not going to, it doesn't have a way to encourage builders to do better over time. What we've seen with builders that have used GreenPoint rated is that they start out with a baseline of maybe 65 or 75 points, and each product or each development or each house, they see where they can incorporate additional measures. So we've seen improvement of these builders over time. I think even the production builders, most of them are around 90 points now, whereas 3 years ago they were barely getting over 50 points. And that is really the value, or one of the biggest values of these systems, is that it's an easy education tool for builders. The other thing is that, and awards them, so they can announce this. They can compare themselves to another builder. I've got 95, you've only got 85. It also is important because we do have, it's got a long history of experts behind it with clearly defined and vetted criteria. The third-party verification is something that can be trusted, that local jurisdictions can trust if they're wanting to quantify greenhouse gases, that the consumer that can trust. So those sorts of things are really the importance of this market-based system. Lastly, we do have builders that use it simply for risk mitigation. I have some builders that never tell the consumer that they're using GreenPoint rated, but they have that third-party verifier out there that's looking at GreenPoint rating, looking at all those measures, so that they can tell the homeowner that they're installing water conservation measures and indoor air quality practices. So those are the things that a market-based system offer that a regulatory system cannot offer. And that's why I think that they are both very important, and Builder Green works very hard to try to collaborate with building standards and HCD to make these two systems work together. The key issues for local officials when they're developing an ordinance is that if they are thinking at their highest level, they want to encourage builders to do better over time. They want to allow a builder to be able to make those improvements as best they can, and use something that will give the builder a market tool. If they're going to do better than code, they want to have a market tool and something that they can sell, a consumer label that they can sell. So if local jurisdictions want to do an above CALGreen mandatory code, we're really recommending that they look at both the market-based systems and the regulatory systems. The other reason is that builders do want to use the market-based systems. They do want to use LEED. They do want to use GreenPoint rated. And if a builder has to pull all the verification together for compliance with GreenPoint rated, and then they would also have to do it for CALGreen mandatory or tier, it becomes onerous for them. And so we really, again, we were encouraging local jurisdictions, and Build It Green are talking to local jurisdictions about it, encouraging them to see how these programs can work together to really encourage builders to do better and to help everyone. The Bay Area Climate Collaborative also agrees with this. The Bay Area Climate Collaborative was started by the city of San Francisco, or the mayors of San Francisco, San Jose, and Oakland. And its purpose was to develop regional policies to make the Bay Area the leader in reducing greenhouse gas emissions and climate action plans. So they collaborate, and they continue to collaborate together. As part of that, of course, you know they're dealing with traffic issues and water issues and a lot of other things, but they have a section that's about green building. And they've made some recommendations to all the local jurisdictions in the Bay Area. And the recommendations around CALGreen are this. First, prioritize CALGreen mandatory provisions. Don't think about the tiers. Don't think about going beyond this. Educate your local officials about CALGreen. Get processes in place, whether you're going to use special inspectors, GreenPoint raters, or you're going to do it in-house. Get a process in place that works. Educate your builders. Let's get the fundamentals down well and get them verified. Let's get those builders to that mandatory baseline provision. If a city wants to go above CALGreen mandatory, Bay Area Climate Collaborative is actually recommending to continue to use, most of them in the Bay Area use GreenPoint rated and LEED. They are recommending that they maintain that because it is an easy pathway for builders and it's something that builders are familiar with. They're saying if a local jurisdiction wants to use a tier to go above CALGreen, that it would make it, that they should allow both an alternative pathway. So either a builder complies with the CALGreen tier, or a builder says, I'm going to do GreenPoint rated, and I want to comply with the code. So there'd be alternative pathways to compliance with the code. The code would include CALGreen tier, or they would accept a third-party verification LEED or GreenPoint rated. So those are recommendations for Bay Area Climate Collaborative. That information is on our website. We certainly agree with that approach, and think it's really in the benefit of local jurisdictions, our region, and our builders. Lastly, I'm going to go to comparisons of the code. I'm going to take you off for a second because I got to pull this up.
I'm going to come over here.
I got to come over there?
Yeah.
You got it all set up?
We're going to, well, we're sharing your screen now. So on the website,
okay.
Correct? Website, yeah.
Okay. I'm moving over here.
Little reorchestration.
Oh, if I want this. Can I have this?
Sure. Did you leave it open, the website?
No. I didn't have it open.
Oh, I thought you had it open. That's why we switched. Okay. Well.
Oh, I have these open. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, whatever you need.
Yeah. Okay. So I do this. I click that.
And just to let folks know, I know people have been emailing in about the slides. So there's a correction. I think probably some of you got an answer back. So the recorded webinar will be available on our members-only webinar library, so you can listen to it again, see the slides, and hear Tanaya's audio. The PowerPoint slides of this presentation actually will be available through our Guild's homepage because Tanaya has given this presentation at our Bay Area Guild live, and actually she'll be giving this later in February at the North Bay Guild. So if you actually want to see it live and you're local, you can attend that as well.
Okay, so finally, let's look at some of these measures. This is the list. What I've done here in this document is, and this is on our website in that link that I just showed you, Again, if you want to find it, you can go to our website. On the left-hand side, you'll see local governments. Go to, click on that, and you'll find a link to information about CALGreen. This document is there, as well as the next one I'm going to talk about. This is the list of the mandatory requirements in CALGreen. This is the measure. This column is the number of points that you could earn in GreenPoint rated. This is the measure number, single family and multifamily measure number, and just some notes. So the first one, stormwater management during construction, that is the measure that doesn't earn GreenPoint rated points. It is code, has been code for a long time, and we're not awarding points for it. The next one, as I mentioned earlier, designed for surface water drainage away from the building. Again, those measures show up on the GreenPoint rated checklist now under section Q, but you won't earn points for it. So it helps if a local jurisdiction wants to use GreenPoint rated for verification, or GreenPoint raters, or you, the builder, just want to make sure, yeah, we're doing this. It's all there on the checklist. Under the next one, under energy, the requirement is to meet Title 24 requirements. GreenPoint rated, you have to be 15% above, so you would not gain any points for doing that. Under water conservation, there's a couple ways to meet the requirements in CALGreen. We recommend them doing prescriptive. The first one says the indoor water use shall be reduced by at least 20%. Now, they show you how to do a calculation. It's kind of onerous. It makes much more sense to just put in low flow fixtures. You would get 7 points for putting in low flow fixtures. So it means a shower head, your kitchen faucet, your bathroom faucet, and your, no, that's it, right? Kitchen, bath, oh, and your toilet. All of those need to meet low flow requirements. So a 1.28 on your toilet. I think it's a 1.5 on your bath faucet, a 1.8 on your kitchen faucet, and I forget what the shower is. Might be a 2.0 gallons per minute. Can't remember. It's in the guidebooks. So that's the easiest way to comply with CALGreen, is just install low flow fixtures. Know that with your shower heads, if you have multiple shower heads in one shower, then they would have to meet that 2.0 gallons. So you'd only be able to have a 1.0 gallon for each shower head. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Probably just put in one shower head. Under irrigation, you must put in an irrigation controller, and it needs to be weather-based. If you don't have any irrigation, obviously you wouldn't get any points for GreenPoint rated, but if you do install an irrigation controller, you get 3 points under GreenPoint rated. Next one down, under material conservation and resource efficiency. So these are the categories in the CALGreen checklist. One of them is that you seal annular spaces. So that means penetrations to the exterior. They want you to seal that. They want you to seal so that rodents can't get into your attic. That's been code for a while, as far as I understand, and you don't get points on it in GreenPoint rated, but it's there. Next one down, waste diversion. So CALGreen asks you to divert a minimum of 50% of your construction waste. That is a local recommendation or a state recommendation. Most cities help you comply with that. And hopefully builders, most builders throughout the state have been familiar with at least that requirement for a while. This one, it will be, could be a little bit more difficult for folks. This one is operation and maintenance manual will be provided to the building occupant or owner. I have the understanding that the California Building Industry Association was going to develop one of these that builders could use. I haven't followed up with them to see whether or not they've done that, but you could you might be able to contact your local building industry association and see if they have an operation manual. Otherwise, other than that, it needs to be simple equipment maintenance and information about how to maintain their home to meet the CALGreen standards, so low VOC paints, etc. So this one could be a little challenging, and I haven't seen any businesses show up lately that are offering these. It seems as though if anybody's looking for a business opportunity, that might be it. Under fireplaces, any fireplace should be a direct vent combustion type. Wood stove and pellet stoves need to comply with U.S. EPA. I believe there's more information in the guidebook about how to do that. The GreenPoint rated does have a measure about standards for fireplaces, but it's higher than this code. Ours is about closing off and having a tight fireplace fixture so that you're not losing air to the outside. We're in the category now under environmental category. I'm going down here under pollution control. They want you to protect the ducts during construction. That can be done through duct tape and plastic, or you can buy little aluminum things that go inside. I think this is a great thing that we're doing it so you don't have dust inside your ducts when you finally, or the homeowner doesn't have dust inside their ducts when they finally turn on the equipment. The next section is all about the low-emitting products. A number of these are easily found in the marketplace. Low VOC adhesives and sealants are easy to find. Low VOC paints are easy to find. Stains are a little more challenging, but they can be found. Aerosol paints, you know what? I'm surprised they even have this, but so I'm not familiar with aerosol paints. And whether or not there's low VOC paints available. And you must document that. That would be through your MSDS sheet. Those all will earn points in GreenPoint rated. Obviously, if you're not installing a heat duct system, you're using radiant floor heating, you wouldn't get any points for that measure under GreenPoint rated, and you wouldn't need to comply in CALGreen, obviously, as well. Going down, we're also looking at low VOC carpets and carpet systems. On the residential side, this can be a little more challenging, and you may get some homeowners that are a little more challenged about this. But you know, KB Homes has a whole showcase of carpets that meet this requirement. So if KB Homes can do it, I think the rest of us can do it. Your resilient flooring, so your vinyl flooring, has to meet requirements, and what the levels of VOCs that you need to comply with are all in that guidebook. We don't have time to go over it today, but know that they are listed in that guidebook that I referenced. I think for the low VOC paints, low VOC carpet, if you meet Green Label or Green Label Plus, then you meet the requirements. I forget what it is for resilient flooring. Last on this page is that your composite woods have a formaldehyde reduction. This is a California code in a different section as well. It's called Air Toxic Control Measure. And your cabinet makers should be very well aware of this. So you should not have to worry about this measure. The cabinet makers have been informed for about 2 years that this is coming. The combustion wood manufacturers have been aware for 2 years that this is coming. My understanding is that national manufacturers are using lower formaldehyde reduction. There is a chain of custody reporting that goes with those cabinets, so you can look for that to just make sure that, or double check that your cabinet maker is conforming. If you want more information about that, whoops, how do I get this over here? Hold on. All right, so let's go back up. So if you want more information about the low formaldehyde, if you Google Air Toxic Control Measure, ATCM, you'll find additional information. Continuing under environmental quality, as I said, this is a section of the code that they really addressed, and I think it's important and very happy that they have addressed this. There needs to be a capillary break between your slab and grade. You don't earn points in GreenPoint rated. Again, you can get more description in the guidebook. They've done a really good job of describing what this means. The next one down is 19% moisture content in the building framing materials. They're expecting that the inspector will come out with a moisture meter. It's got little probes on it. You should do this as well. Most framing materials comply with this. The only problem I could imagine is if it's been sitting out in the rain for a week, then you may have some issues there. But they want the moisture content in the framing to be lower than 19% before you close in the walls. That's to mitigate mold. It will also, for you, it will mitigate the shrinkage and any cracks of the drywall. So that's a good practice. Continuing under indoor air, bath exhaust fans in every bathroom equipped with Energy Star fan and a humidistat. So you will get GreenPoint rated points for doing so. And again, it's an easy thing to do, and it's not costly. Humidistats are not expensive. Continuing down, whole house exhaust fans must be insulated. If you don't have a whole house fan, obviously that's you're waived from this. The next one, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. This is the one that we had some questions about. Your duct systems and your equipment must be sized. It must be designed. And your HVAC contractor should be able to do this. So it's your manual J, D, and S. Your ACA manuals J, D, and S. This is a requirement. It has been a mechanical code requirement for many years. It has never been enforced, or hardly ever enforced, and now we've got it in CALGreen.
Quick question. We just want to know, is it possible to maximize your screen
a little bit more?
A little bit more, maybe try.
That's about all I can do.
Okay.
So
you can hit that one too.
No, that would just.
Oh, that'll really.
Yeah, I got it up to 150.
Okay, hopefully that helps for folks that were asking for that.
Continuing down, we're almost done. Installers and special inspector qualifications. Again, this is part of the mandatory code. They're asking for HVAC installers to be trained and certified in proper installation methods. And I forget what that, there is a credential. Most HVAC contractors that I know have met that. Again, look to that guidebook. You will find out what that is. You don't get points for it in GreenPoint rated, but it is a good thing to do. Most HVAC contractors will comply without any problems. This is the area where it just mentions that special inspectors can be employed by the enforcement agency. So any of you GreenPoint raters that are looking for work, talk to your local officials and see if they're allowing you to verify for CALGreen. Okay, so that's the mandatory. Do we have any questions on the mandatory before I go to the tiers? Oh, I would have them, won't I? I will have them. I'm going to look for questions right now on the mandatory.
I've been logging them. I mean, I can read you the questions we have. Is it possible? What is the link for this matrix? How do people find this?
So again, if you want to find this matrix, go to, well, let me go back to the link, but then I'll talk you through it as well.
You need to go back to the
I
presentation?
need to go back to the presentation.
Okay, then we need to do our little switch.
I'll do it. Accepted.
Okay.
So if you go to the Build It Green website, on the left-hand side you will see a link that says, just reduce that there, that says government, local government.
Okay.
And in that, when you get to that section for the local government, I believe it's near the bottom, it will talk about CALGreen and Build It Green's information about CALGreen, very near the bottom. If you link that, you will find all of these documents. You will find the Bay Area Climate Collaborative recommendations. You will see comparisons. This is the link that's up right now, and I did try it the other day, and I know that it works. Okay, anything else?
Yeah, well, there's some more questions. Hold on, let me get those open.
Can you take me back? Bring me back?
Yeah, I can bring you back.
Oh, she's
Make tonight to enter. Okay, so there's a few. I'll just go backwards in time here. Ron was confirming that yes, there are low VOC aerosols and floor score for resilient flooring.
Thank you. Floor score is the resilient flooring label. So if you look for resilient flooring that has that label, you'll be good to go.
Okay, so we got a question from Joe. How can the FHA 203K $203,000 loan, energy efficient mortgage, and GreenPoint rated be used to maximize housing affordability and energy efficiency?
Joe, I'd love to talk to you about that. That is beyond the extent of this this presentation, and the 203Ks are for existing homes, so I'm going to pass on answering that, but you have my phone number and we can talk.
Okay, and we'll, in her info we'll give at the end. We have a question from Eric, and this is a longer question. Is Build It Green going to be proactive in making the GreenPoint rated system a standard checklist to comply with CALGreen with local municipalities? Or did the Bay Area municipalities just take a step backwards as most towns and cities are adopting the CALGreen tiers and letting GreenPoint rated go? What will Build It Green do to keep us moving forward with better than standard green building?
So Eric, I'm not sure, I think you're over in Marin, and my understanding is that Sonoma County is actually looking at the tiers. I'm not aware. Oh, that was showing. You mean I want that? Yeah. Can I bring back the questions though? They were good. So we have talked to Sonoma County. We've given them our recommendations. Cities are going to do what the cities want to do. What we're seeing is that some cities are wanting to hold this in-house. They're really wanting their officials to do the tiers, and that is a decision they've made. It's not the Bay Area Climate Collaborative's recommendations, nor is it Build It Green's, but some cities are making that decision to go for the tiers for sure. We're doing what we can to educate people and try to help them understand about how these two systems work together and give our best shot as to why they need to work together. But in the end, the cities will do what they want to do. It is a shame in my mind that they're not allowing GreenPoint rated and LEED to be an alternative pathway. I think that if builders, if cities wanted to adopt the tiers, great, go for it. But I really, I think it's a mistake, quite honestly, to not allow for these alternative pathways with GreenPoint rated and LEED. So we will be doing additional outreach to local jurisdictions, and we'll do our best. So if people want additional information and they want to talk to their local officials, we can help you out there as well.
Okay, we got Tom Wagner wants to know, is there a list of jurisdictions that are using GreenPoint rated to meet CALGreen requirements with possibly additional requirements like Palo Alto?
You know, I don't have a list at this point. Bay Area Climate Collaborative, I need to talk to them. They've been doing a lot of work. They put together, if you want to Google Bay Area Climate Collaborative, they did a tremendous mapping in the Bay Area of all the local jurisdictions and what they're requiring. They have it in an Excel matrix and they have it on a beautiful little map. It probably is not current because of CALGreen, so I don't have that list as we speak. Things are moving fast and it's hard to catch up or keep up.
Sean writes in that Sonoma County and most of the local jurisdictions are Tier 1. The City of Santa Rosa is using third-party verification. Okay, and then moving along, where do you think the next code update of CALGreen is going?
So the next code update for CALGreen is, we're going to do a lot of advocacy at that point to try to make the voluntary measures much more in alignment with these market-based systems. I don't know where it will go. I don't think they're planning on too many changes in this next code section, this next code cycle, which I believe is this spring. But I do know that eventually CALGreen, or over time, CALGreen will become more stringent. I hope they keep it at this level for a while until all of our builders in the state of California can comply before they make it more rigorous. But know that just like the Energy Code is more rigorous, CALGreen will continue to be more rigorous.
So we have more questions, but are you going back to talk about the tiers, or are we just finishing out with questions? Yeah. Well, I'm going to finish up with the tiers. Just one other question here about GreenPoint rated, and will we be coming out with a checklist that includes the tiers? The answer is no. The tiers are not very well defined. The measures that we'll go through it, but the short answer is no. We're not going to try to fit in with the CALGreen tiers. I'm going to go over the mandatory measures of CALGreen, and then we'll call it a day. The first one, so these are the mandatory requirements. As I mentioned, you also have to include some electives to meet these requirements. I'm not going to go over all of those. I'm just going to go over the prerequisites. So under planning and design, one of them is topsoil shall be protected and saved for reuse. This is not very well defined. If you meet CALGreen, you will not meet GreenPoint rated. GreenPoint rated has definitions of the size of the piles, because once these piles of dirt get over 6 feet, then you're compressing it, you lose all the oxygen, and therefore your whole reason for stockpiling and putting it back has been lost. So those definitions, a lot of the criteria that GreenPoint rated is listed is not in the CALGreen. We don't know what cities will be requiring. We don't have a lot of builders that actually meet the GreenPoint rated measure, because it is a pretty difficult measure. So this is one Tier 1 measure that we have some concerns about. Don't think that it was necessarily vetted, and that's what I have to say about that one. Under Tier 2, under this same one right here, I'm down here. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger actually for you. Yeah. Under Tier 2, the construction area has to be identified and delineated by fencing and flagging to limit construction activity. Again, that's about all it says in the measure. We don't know what that means or how CALGreen will be interpreted by the local jurisdictions. It's not an easy one to comply with on the GreenPoint rated checklist. We're very specific as to what this means to be able to comply with a measure that is limiting construction activity.
Next one down is permeable paving. This one is kind of an interesting one. Under CALGreen, what it says that not less than 20% of the parking, walking, or patio surfaces will be permeable. However, also in the next sentence, it says that driveways and entry walkways are exempted. So in essence, this permeable paving measure under the Tier 1 includes any backyard patios, and that's really about it. So this shouldn't be a difficult one to comply with. That's about what I have to say about that one. The next one, roofing materials shall have a minimum 3-year age solar reflectance. That one, again, you can look to your manufacturers. Shouldn't be a difficult one to comply with. As you can see, none of these measures earn points in GreenPoint rated. Your roofing solar reflectance is included in Title 24, and so GreenPoint rated does not give you extra measures because we give you measures for doing better than Title 24. Moving on, under energy efficiency, as I said, Tier 1 requires you to be 15% above Title 24. Tier 2 requires you to be 30% above Title 24. Under, and you would get points for GreenPoint rated, 2 points for every % above Title 24. Under kitchen faucets, under water efficiency, kitchen faucets under mandatory have to be 1.8 gallons per minute. Under Tier 1, they have to be 1.5 gallons per minute. You don't get points from that. GreenPoint rated has determined that a 1.5 gallon per minute faucet in the kitchen, most people will remove that. We're concerned that people will remove that restrictor because it's so low flow, and in the kitchen you really want a faster flow. So we haven't changed GreenPoint rated. You don't get additional points. Looks like I've got 3 minutes left, so I'm not going to talk about the Tier 2 here. I will talk about the water efficient landscape irrigation. If you're doing Tier 1, you're going to have to do, your landscaper is going to have to do an evaluation of the efficiency of that landscape, and not sure, you'll need to go to your local jurisdictions to ask them what they're going to want for that. I think it's, again, we do a prescriptive pathway for landscaping because smaller custom home builders, their landscapers aren't really going to know how to comply with this. So we use a prescriptive pathway. If you do it, you can earn points on GreenPoint rated. Cement use, the reduction of cement, I think you all are familiar with that. Use of fly ash, you do earn points for it in GreenPoint rated. Next one down is materials. The requirement here is a little bit interesting. They want you to show, to comply with Tier 1, they want you to show that at least of all of the materials that are in the building, that at least 10% of those materials by cost have some level of post-consumer and pre-consumer recycled content. That's going to be another one that's challenging to show. It hasn't been vetted. I know that it's very easy to comply with a steel building. Not sure how easy it is to comply with a wood building because engineered lumber, your OSB, does not comply with this measure. It's not recycled content material. So not sure how people are going to comply with this. It's kind of a wait and see. Under waste reduction, under waste reduction, you can see that the waste reduction is increased under Tier 1 and Tier 2. Under VOC, under environmental control, we're looking at 80% of your resilient floor meeting some requirements. Tier 2 is 90%. Going down, I think that actually, that kind of does it. So if you're having to meet Tier 1 in your local jurisdictions, I would really encourage you to push on your building officials and tell them we want to have a complete list of the criteria for each one of these measures and how you want to verify it, because it's not identified, it's not listed anywhere, and some of these are very vague. So that's my recommendations for those cities, to those builders that are building in those cities. And I think that kind of wraps it up for the day. Am I right?
Yep. Okay, so we're at time. I believe that Tanaya will stay on for a few minutes, so if people have the time and want to stay on, we'll go back through some of those questions. But we do want to officially end the webinar and let everybody know what's coming up. We hope that you enjoyed this. Thank you so much, Tanaya, for this fantastic presentation. There's some links here that I think Tanaya had pointed out throughout the presentation in terms of learning about CALGreen, GreenPoint rated, training. Again, if you have questions, you can stay on the webinar. We want to thank you for attending today, and we hope that you will fill out the survey that's going to show up right afterwards, right after this webinar. And we hope that you join us for our next webinar, which is going to be on February 24th, it's Wednesday, from 10:30 to noon. The title is PACE, the Battle to Save It and What Comes Next, and that's with Cisco DeVries, and it's an excellent webinar. We hope that you'll be with us then. If you have any questions, you can email me directly, guild@builditgreen. If you have questions directly for Tanaya, you can email her at tanaya@builditgreen.org. So we do have a few questions that have come in. We did have a comment from Ron a little ways back that the next code cycle will take on high-rise residential over 4 stories. And he also said the next code cycle might go towards remodels and retrofits and might take 189.1 as a pathway.
That would be for commercial.
Yes.
Hi, Ron.
Yes.
Thanks for that update, Ron.
So, and let's see here. So we've got a lot of thank yous to you. CHPS, low emitting materials, MSDS.
That CHPS is an acronym for California High Performance Schools. I wouldn't, researching that is a little bit challenging. I would use the labels that they've listed, so Green Label Plus materials, rather than trying to research whether or not your product meets CHIPS.
Okay, and let's see here. There were some questions earlier, if Judy is still on. She wanted to know, what if you build to Tier 1 and Tier 2 voluntarily? What if you build to CALGreen plus 15% of Title 24 with PV?
So then you've done so. You can't claim it. It is not, it's by law, you can't say I'm a CALGreen Tier 2 or Tier 1 builder. So I'm not sure, I mean, I don't know what else to say. If you've built to a higher performance, you've built to a higher performance, and that's a good thing. It's a wonderful thing. We want to see builders do it. If you want to get a label, you can go towards LEED or go towards GreenPoint rated. If you want to get a label for a higher performer home. Otherwise, you certainly can market it, and we encourage everybody doing that, because California still wants to do zero energy homes by 2020. So those builders that are getting there, fantastic. We acknowledge you.
She also, I'm not sure if this is a question or a comment from Judy, but she said there's utility incentives for CALGreen plus 15% plus Title 24.
There are utility incentives, and I think I mentioned this, for going 15% above Title 24. They do not give any incentives for doing CALGreen. There are incentives if you've earned a label such as GreenPoint rated or LEED with a third-party verification. There is a 10% bonus. So for instance, if they're giving you $600 a home for going 15% above Title 24, you would get another $60 a home if you were GreenPoint rated or LEED for homes.
Okay, and Ron had asked this earlier, or commented earlier, that some jurisdictions might accept the GreenPoint rated documentation as equivalent for documentation.
That is absolutely true, that some cities are doing that. I know that Livermore is doing that. San Mateo County is probably doing that, where they are allowing GreenPoint rated and GreenPoint rated verification to be a compliance for mandatory CALGreen. It's a good way to go. It's easy for them.
Okay, and this is a question we had from Ron. Can we email the PG&E case study and where to find the CDIA cost study mentioned? Maybe that was
CBIA.
Oh, CDIA cost.
Go to the CBIA website, and I think it's under resources. I know that I have seen that. If not, you'll have to email them directly. They probably have better cost information than we do. But if you do want the cost information that Build It Green has for climate zones 3 and 12, just email me and I'll give it to you.
Okay. And if that's something, I can email out following the webinar if questions are available. Okay. Let's see here. What's new here? What is the cost delta from CALGreen and GreenPoint rated?
The real cost difference between GreenPoint rated for minimum GreenPoint rated and CALGreen is it's really the getting from code compliant on energy efficiency to 15% above. So I think I mentioned getting 15% above Title 24 is somewhere around $1,500 per home, and that's the main difference. If you are doing CALGreen, you would have sufficient points in indoor air quality and in water conservation. You wouldn't necessarily have all the points you need for GreenPoint rated in resource conservation, so you'd have to look, and you would not have your energy points because you must be 15% above Title 24. But for your indoor air and your water, if you've done CALGreen, you have met the minimum requirements, and you've had the third-party verification, then you have met the minimum requirements for GreenPoint rated.
Okay, and there's some more questions that have come in. Eric does say he is kind of disappointed that the state and local municipalities have gone with the lowest common denominator. We are too. And let's see here. Sorry about that.
So we got I'm looking at these two. We got a notice from Michael O'Connell. Michael is the building official in the county of San Mateo. They've been a great. They've been very happy with their ordinance, which includes GreenPoint rated on existing homes and new homes. And it appears as though they are accepting GreenPoint raters as third party for mandatory CALGreen and GreenPoint rated.
Okay, and a question.
Hi, Michael.
Question from Judy. What is the most important credential when seeking a building home performance test? HERS, BPI, other?
Where is that question?
That's Jody Senceros at 1236.
Say it again.
What is the most important credential when seeking a home building performance test? HERS or BPI or other?
So, Jody, I think you're talking about existing homes, and BPI and HERS are two different things. So HERS will give you a HERS score. They'll do a certain amount of testing. They cannot do any construction on your home. A BPI contractor can do all of the tests. They can also do additional tests that HERS raters do not do. They can make the repairs on your home, but they can't give you a score unless they're a HERS rater. So it's really what it is that what you are wanting. If you're wanting an energy efficient mortgage to do your upgrade, then you only have to be a HERS rater. You do not have to be a BPI.
Okay, a question from Brant. Can we get an estimated date of release for the next version of the GreenPoint rated existing homes data collection checklist, version 4.3, that shows CALGreen meeting compliance threshold?
So CALGreen, so I'm a little bit confused here. So GreenPoint rated existing homes, data collection checklist. So the existing home will not, well, it actually is going to make a few changes. Existing homes don't have to meet CALGreen, so there won't be any matching of the data collection form to CALGreen for existing homes. The GreenPoint rated new home data collection form has been updated to include the CALGreen mandatories. The existing home data collection form will not be modified for CALGreen.
Great, that's very clear. And I'm sorry, I mentioned I had a typo in my my notes here. The next webinar is Wednesday, February 23rd, not 24th. So my apologies about that. Okay, I think we have answered. Let me just check. I think we've answered most of the questions here, and people do want those links set out. So I'll be sure to get those from Tanaya, and we'll have a follow-up email that'll go out. Many of you will receive a follow-up email, I think, sometime today. It won't have those links in there because I won't have it, that one's automatically just going to go out. So, okay, let's see here. I think that's it. So we want to thank everybody for attending. Actually, most of the group, about over 50 people, stayed on for all these questions. So thanks again, Tanaya, for your time, and thank you, everybody. Again, if you want to see Tanaya live, you can come to the North Bay Guild meeting in San Rafael on...
More me wanting to see you live.
Yeah, well, she does love to do this live. So it would be February 9th, Wednesday evening. You can check our website event calendar for the particular information. And then, yes, in terms of credits for attending today's webinar, so we will be, all of you that have attended and have stayed on for the full webinar, you will get the 1.5 CEUs. You don't need to do anything about that. Build It Green will upload that course into your profile. It'll take us a couple weeks for our recertification department to do that administratively. So once that happens, you will be able to go log on, and you can print out a certificate of completion if you need that for any other CEUs. But if you're using it for Build It Green, it'll just be in your record, and you don't need to do anything about that. Okay, thank you, everybody. We appreciate you being here with us, and we hope to see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.